It is one of the longest and most vociferous disputes in modern history. A confrontation that outlived revolutions, dismantled empires, bankrupted superpowers, and divided the world into opposing halves. For more than a century, capitalism and socialism were not merely economic frameworks. They functioned as ideological front lines. And behind every patriotic address, every labor uprising, every economic downturn, and every proxy conflict, this struggle has shaped the world as it exists today. Yet there is a dimension that ideological advocates almost never acknowledge. Neither system has ever functioned in accordance with its theoretical promises, not once, not in any historical case. And whenever pressure emerged, war, famine, inflation, systemic breakdown, the underlying truth revealed itself with ruthless clarity. Welcome to the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history intersect, and where nothing is ever as simple as it first appears. The narrative begins long before the terms capitalism or socialism were ever spoken. For most of human existence, the economy was not an organized system at all. It was mere survival. Monarchs ruled through claims of divine authority. Landlords controlled nearly all productive resources. Peasants labored only enough to avoid starvation. Progress advanced at a glacial pace. For thousands of years, human society functioned as a zero-sum structure. If one individual or class rose, another necessarily fell. Wealth derived from land, labor, and warfare. Productivity barely increased, and the idea that ordinary people might accumulate wealth through commerce or innovation would have been considered absurd. Then, the Industrial Revolution tore this equilibrium apart. Britain in the late 18th century became a crucible of coal, iron, capital, and unrestrained ambition. Machines replaced muscle. Factories replaced workshops, and an entirely new form of power emerged, the power of private capital. For the first time in history, individuals could invest, assume risk, and control productive assets at a scale previously reserved for monarchs. Productivity exploded. Wages rose for some, while misery deepened for others, and inequality expanded faster than any previous society had experienced. Pollution choked urban centers. Children labored for 12 hours a day. Slums bred disease. Yet despite the brutality, one reality was undeniable. Capitalism generated more goods, more wealth, and more economic momentum than the world had ever seen. This was the precise moment when socialism was born, not as an abstract utopia, but as a reaction to the violence of industrial capitalism. By the mid-19th century, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels examined the factories, the strikes, the sweat-soaked and blood-stained floors, and concluded that the system itself was fundamentally unjust. They viewed capitalist wealth as extracted labor, exploitation disguised as opportunity. They argued that if workers collectively owned production, if profits were shared, and if production served human need rather than private accumulation, society would finally achieve fairness. No exploitation, no recurring crises. Only rational planning and equal dignity. To millions trapped beneath the machinery of early capitalism, this vision sounded not radical, but just. Yet theory and reality are not the same. The first national-scale implementation of socialism occurred not in classrooms, but in the ruins of an empire. After the Russian Revolution of 1917, Lenin inherited a nation that was starving, illiterate, and technologically backward. The Tsar was gone. The old elite had fled or been executed. Suddenly, a vast territory with more than 100 million people required an entirely new economic operating system. The Soviets created one. Land, factories, banks, and natural resources were placed under state ownership. Prices were determined by planners. Production quotas replaced profit. Private enterprise was eliminated. In theory, this would create efficiency and equality. In practice, it generated disorder. Without market prices, planners lacked accurate information about what people needed. Without competition, innovation declined. Without personal reward, workers had little incentive to excel. Shortages became routine. Queues became cultural. Agriculture collapsed into famine. Lenin was eventually forced to retreat, allowing limited private trade simply to keep the nation alive. Yet despite its failures, socialism retained its appeal, largely because capitalism was simultaneously revealing its own fragility. By the early 20th century, capitalist economies produced vast wealth, but severe instability. Speculation dominated markets. Monopolies controlled industries. The wealthy lived in extraordinary luxury while millions struggled. The system excelled at producing wealth but failed at distributing it. This imbalance detonated in 1929 when the United States stock market collapsed. The Great Depression was not merely a recession. It was a global economic cardiac arrest. Banks failed. Unemployment soared to catastrophic levels. Entire financial systems imploded. To millions, capitalism appeared not simply flawed, but terminal. Then came World War II, a stress test for every economic system. The Soviet Union, despite inefficiencies, mobilized its population with extreme speed through centralized control. Capitalist nations, particularly the United States, transformed into industrial giants, demonstrating the power of private innovation under national coordination. After the war, the ideological contest became empirical. It was measured in output, infrastructure, and living standards. From 1945 to 1991, the world became a laboratory. On one side stood the Soviet bloc with central planning and state control. On the other stood regulated capitalist societies with private enterprise and social safety nets. In the USSR, early decades brought rapid industrialization and rising literacy, but inefficiencies accumulated. Factories met quotas by producing useless goods. Innovation stagnated. Consumer technology lagged. A nation capable of building rockets could not produce reliable household appliances. Capitalist economies, by contrast, adapted through regulation, welfare systems, and innovation. Living standards diverged dramatically. By the 1980s, the outcome was clear. The Cold War was not won by ideology, but by performance. The Soviet Union collapsed not because of invasion, but because of empty shelves and broken incentives. Capitalism prevailed, but its contradictions remained. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, capitalism evolved into a global financial system dominated by debt, speculation, and inequality. The 2008 crisis demonstrated that instability had not disappeared. It had merely changed form. Socialism returned in a softer guise. Calls for healthcare, education, wealth taxes, and labor protections. Younger generations began questioning a system that no longer delivered upward mobility. Today, no major economy operates under a pure ideology. Scandinavia combines markets with strong social protections. The United States exhibits innovation alongside inequality. China represents state-directed capitalism. Each is a hybrid, forged by historical compromise. The deeper truth is that systems do not erase human nature. Under capitalism, ambition becomes innovation until it becomes exploitation. Under socialism, equality becomes unity until it becomes repression. Power concentrates regardless of the structure. The crucial difference lies in whether institutions can restrain it. The ultimate lesson of history is not that one ideology triumphed. It is that adaptability triumphed. Systems that evolved survived, those that did not collapsed. And the struggle was never truly about capitalism versus socialism. It was always about who controls power, and power never disappears. It only changes hands. Like and subscribe so we can see more videos. Remember, history never dies.